Hey everyone, Didier Le Miere, CEO and founder of Fixon Media Group. I'm about to be on the Online Prosperity Show, and today you're going to learn all about my life, taking it from the football field as a goalkeeper, working towards achieving the goal of being the goalkeeper for Manchester United, and then the pivot that occurred in my life just during COVID to now running a video production company, working with some amazing brands across sport, education, and tourism, and improving their connections with their customers through highly relatable short and long form video content.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, your number one destination for exclusive behind-the-scenes content that dives deep into the journeys of today's most inspiring innovators. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we have a truly special guest. Now, Didier, how are you doing today?
Doing very well, Prosper. Thank you for having me, and I'm really looking forward to having a chat.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine. I was practicing my French, but you threw me off with this perfectly good Aussie accent. Like, what am I going to do with the je veux le veux, everything else that I had prepared for this intro?
Yes, I'm born in Australia. My dad's from Mauritius, so that's where the French connection comes in there. I know a little bit of French. I can understand more than I can speak. So whenever the family relatives are together and around, and I can hear them talking about me, I do give them a little look, and then they know, oh, yeah, he can hear us.
Yeah. I was trying to say a few words, but then I was just like, nah, let me not ruin the events today. But for those that are watching right now, thank you so much for tuning in to the Online Prosperity Show. And as I've said, today we've got Didier Le Miere. See, I practiced my French. And he is the director of Fixon Media Group. Now, Didier's story is nothing short of cinematic. I want you to imagine a young man who's training 6 days a week to be a professional goalkeeper for Manchester United, only to then pivot into a world where he actually crafts powerful, emotive brand story films that connect with audiences on a whole new level. So today we're going to be exploring every twist and turn of Didier's journey from the high pressure world of sports to the creative hustle behind every frame at Fixon Media. And hey, if you've ever felt like maybe life threw you a curveball, or let's say in this instant, a missed penalty, I want you to drop a comment below and let us know, because you know what? You are in great company. Now, Didier, we only have 90 minutes to finish this episode, but the first 45 are basically us getting to know who you are, what it is that you do. I could go on and on, talking about things that are not even part of this journey. Maybe you can take us back to those early days. First of all, you had a dream to play professional football. How did that come by?
Yeah, so let's bring that back and bring a bit of a time play into this. So I was probably 12 years old at the time. So that would have been, I'm only a young bunny, 21 years of age at the moment. So 12 years old, I would have been 2015. So very, very young, last year of primary school. And we had an inter-school sporting competition in the winter and in the summer courses as well. But specifically in the winter, you have the soccer going on, the football. And so I hadn't played any sort of soccer, football outside of school before, never done that competitively. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna trial for the school team. So I went out there one lunchtime, got all the guys together, do a training session. And we're all doing the regular drills that you're doing. And the coach, I think his name was Daniel from the top of my head, he goes, oh, we need someone to be the goalkeeper for the team. Who wants to have a try? And I put my hand up along with a couple other guys. And we did a few little drills, just the few of us that were going to see if would like the goalkeeper position. And I kind of just fell into it. I loved it. I wouldn't say I was a natural at it, but in that moment, it was something that I picked up very quickly. And so he said, look, you want to be the keeper for the team? I said, yep, no worries, let's do it. And then throughout the rest of that term, 6, 8, 10 weeks, whatever duration it would have been, went off and played all the different schools around our area. And we came second in our little regional area, which was quite an achievement for us. And then from there, 2 years later, I then went on at 14 to join my first competitive team outside of school. A lot of my mates that I picked up in high school in the early years were playing soccer, so I thought, let's go join them. Let's have a play. And it was kind of from that moment, probably mid 2017, that I really took onto the sport, and I said, this is something that I want to pursue going forward. And so from that point, I committed to myself to training, to dieting, to all the different vicinities around that. And then later on, the mental side of things as well, and analysing performance, took on all of that for the next 3-4 years and really just pursued achieving that goal.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for obviously letting us in on that piece of information. But you actually went further and you actually wanted to try out for Manchester United. That was Correct. On your sides, right?
That was the goal. And that came purely from just supporting Manchester United. I said that was the level I wanted to get to. And so the training was 6 days a week, as you touched on at the start of the show. It was gym, it was running, it was on the track, it was technical drills, it was goalkeeper specific sessions. I was very, very specific. I tell the story to people of just how specific I was. I was always trying to improve the 1%ers, knowing that the 1%ers can tenfold, hundredfold into being massive gains. And I had two weaknesses at that time. The first was that my left side of my body was a lot stronger than my right in terms of my diving abilities. So I was able to dive better on my left than my right. So I needed to improve the core strength on my right side. So every night I would sleep on my right side of my body just to see if that did some sort of improvement over time. If it did, I don't know. But that was one of the things I did. Another thing was my right arm was stronger than my left arm because I was right arm dominant. So I began brushing my teeth twice a day with my left arm. And now that's just a habit that I've continued since then. I try and brush my right arm now and I think I'm doing something weird. But it was just those little minuscule habits that I tried to implement to try and improve with, again, that target of being the goalkeeper at Manchester United. And that was the target that I wanted to achieve. And that was what I worked towards over those 4 years. That was the end goal. And I wanted to get myself into that position, whether it be in the 4 years, 10 years, 15 years down the line. That was going to be the goal for me. And that's what I wanted to achieve.
Absolutely. I quite like that. And I like that insight of, having a stronger side of your body, like the left-hand side or the right-hand side. And while you were saying that, I was actually thinking, is that the reason why I always gravitate to turn left instead of having to do a right turn? And I was just thinking maybe I actually need to look into that. But that's quite interesting what you've just said there, because it really showcases an understanding of oneself in order to be able to improve, like I said, that 1%. Now, what you're taking us in is a lot of work for a young man. Now, did you have any mentors or people that were supporting you along the way, or where were you learning all this mindset stuff from?
I would say the coaches that I had around me at the time were very, very good, and they understood kind of where I wanted to go. Now, for context, at this stage, I was just playing in the community leagues in and around Mornington, so the level wasn't super, super high. But I shared with the coaches that I had at the time, this was the direction I wanted to go, and if they can support me in any way that they can, that would be fantastic. So one of the coaches in particular, Steve Bayard, who was my goalkeeper coach, he was fantastic. He brought me into the senior team, the men's senior team at Mornington, got me training with them a couple of times a week. I attended all the senior goalkeeping sessions instead of being with the juniors to, again, further enhance that development. and he was really, really good. And in the latter years, just before COVID, and during COVID as well, he moved over to New Zealand, which is where he was born, and he still lives over there now. But at the time, he still was helping me out with a few different things and connections and what forth. So from a mentor perspective there, that was very, very, very positive. The other one, wouldn't say so much from a mindset perspective, more so from a communication and skill perspective, was my father. Because when I became the keeper at age 12 in the school team, he would come and watch all the games, and he would say, you have to be, as a goalkeeper, you have to be the loudest person on the pitch. You have to communicate where all your players need to be. Because as a goalkeeper, you can see everything. You're at the back of the field, everything's in front of you, there's nothing behind you. So you can see where the ball is, where the players are. You can begin to interpret and analyze the game. Where is it going to move to next? Where do you need to position your defenders to make sure they're best situated to deal with any possible attack from the opposition? And so every game he was always saying, you got to be loud, you got to be talking. So that's what I took on. I would communicate with all my defenders, my midfielders, my attackers, and say, you need to be here and you need to do that. At a corner, this is what you need to be. At a free kick, I need you here. And that compounded over the years, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, to the point where that was my biggest strength. That was what I was known for. That was a point of difference at that level, because most people outside of the semi-professional, professional game, they're very, very quiet, especially goalkeepers. They don't say much. But if you go and you watch the top pros, every single person on the pitch, from the defenders to the goalkeepers to the attackers and midfielders, everyone is talking. So that skill there was one of those, the communication skills there was one of the things that I learned from my dad from that perspective. And I think that kind of just, it oozes out a little bit into the development of the other skills that you need, the discipline and the hard work, because they all kind of interrelate a little bit. So you get a hit one, and then you have a sniff of another one in the distance. If that makes a little bit of sense.
Absolutely, because there's a lot of discipline. As a goalkeeper, the whole game literally, lies on you, because once a score comes in, everybody's looking at the goalkeeper. What have you done? Even though you did the best that you could and you actually dived in the side that your body is strongest at. So now it's starting to make sense, because you never know which side is going to be required. It's not like when somebody's coming in with a penalty, you say, please shoot it this side, because that's my that's my best side.
That'd be a good situation to be in.
Absolutely. Now, obviously you worked really hard, and with the availability of resources and exposure, did you ever make it then to any trials with Manchester United?
Not Manchester United, unfortunately. So the years progressed. I got a few runs in the reserves team, and I was still on the fringe of the senior team. And then COVID came around. So this is early 2020. Obviously, everything stopped, especially here in Melbourne. You couldn't do anything. And so during that time, without knowing where things was going to end up, I said, I've got to keep doing my training, got to keep working towards that goal. So the training continued by myself, and then occasionally with a mate where it was allowed. And then probably September, October of 2020, I got injured. And in hindsight, it wasn't a bad injury. It was just a really bad case of shin splints. But the diagnosis of the injury was misdiagnosed 3 times. And so I was given rehab for one diagnosis, which in turn made the actual injury worse. Then you go to the next specialist, and they gave a different diagnosis. They gave a rehab plan for this, and it was just compounding, and it got super, super worse. So an injury that should have taken 3-4 weeks to recover from ended up being 6, 7, 8 months. So it came to March, April 2021, thereabouts, and things were slowly starting to pick back up again. Team sports were slowly coming back. And that was my year 12 final years of study. And I didn't have the motivation to continue doing the training and working towards that goal of becoming a professional. at the time where I was injured over that summer period of 2020, 2021, December, January, thereabouts, where things slowly started to come back a little bit, Steve, who went over to New Zealand, he had organised a few trials for me with some higher ranked clubs in Victoria. And I went and introduced myself to the clubs, and we were going to do the trials, but I couldn't compete in the trials because I was injured. So that was a bit disappointing for me at that time. And with being injured and not being able to take on these opportunities and not having a clear deadline of when I was going to be coming back into my training, all of that together with also having year 12 studies, I kind of just thought, let's just move this away, come back to it at the end of the year, see if I want to continue that, or we'll move in a separate direction. And so from an emotional perspective there, it was a time of unknown, as it was for a lot of people during COVID, of course. And there was the occasional thought of, oh, you've just been training 4 years, 6 days a week, and now you're going to move that away and go and pursue something else. That's probably not a very good decision. But at the same time, it gets that point 6-7 months where you're not doing any sort of training, not in the gym, you're not running, you lose your strength, you lose your fitness, and then you try and get back into it, and you know where you were at, and you're all the way down here, and you've got to bridge that gap again, and you know the work that it takes to bridge that gap, and you know, it all comes together, and that was the decision for me. I was like, no, let's just move away. We'll think about this when I've got a bit more of a fresher mind. I'm not acting on the emotions of the situation, and let's come back to it in 10 months' time, 9 months' time, towards the end of 21, and consider where things are at then. And that's what I did in the end.
See, that was a career-defining injury, which basically took you out of play or out of commission for quite a while. And that obviously happens to a lot of people, especially when they are working towards their goals or their dreams. But from what I'm understanding, you obviously just took it as what it was. There's a different mindset that brings about, just accepting things as they are and then moving forward to the next thing. Just maybe tell us a little bit about what tools or strategies you actually use to make that possible, because so many people would have just been in fetal position. Woe is me. This, my career has ended. What now?
Yeah. And just to sit context finally on that little bit there, I just do want to note to people, I'm very much aware that the injury itself wasn't a horrible injury. I just want to be upfront with that. I understand some people have suffered far, far worse injury-wise. But for me, it was just that setback of 6 months of misdiagnosis after misdiagnosis that compounded. So that's just want to settle that there for anyone that was confused about that side of things. Absolutely. But in terms of the mindset, I've always been one to think that what happens, and there's two sides to that, because one side of it, you want to be in control of your decisions, fate, if you want to call it fate. But at the same time, you have to understand that there's a lot of things outside of your control that you cannot control, and you never will be able to control. And so where I draw the line between that balance is, am I every single day putting forward the steps and the works that are building the foundations for where I want to go in future? If I am, fantastic. And if there's things that come in that way that I can't control, that's okay. At that point where you kind of put everything into the hands of fate, from my perspective, it's someone that just sits back and lets things happen to them. And in doing so, you're not in control, because there are things you can control. But you have to understand you can't control everything. And for me, at that time period, I couldn't control the diagnosis of the injuries. I don't have the medical knowledge to do that. I couldn't control the delay of when I would be coming back and training again. I couldn't control the implementation of COVID restrictions and all of that was happening at the time, especially in Melbourne. And so what could I control? I could control my response to it. I could control the emotions that I was feeling at the time and the decisions that I was making with those emotions at the time. And using all the information that was around me at the time, I can make the most informed decision I can in that moment. And that most informed decision in that moment was, I've got the emotions of what's occurred over the past 6 months. Let's not make a decision on those emotions. Let's wait until 6 months, 9 months down the line, revisit that and make a decision then when I'm more informed. I've had 6 or 9 months worth of information to help me make a more informed decision. And hopefully, and of course in hindsight, which was the case, COVID restrictions moved away and things opened up and we were able to get a bit more of a clearer picture of where things were at. And I think that's very important, is that you can't be in control of everything, but you can be in control of some things. Make sure you're in control of the things you can be, and then everything else will happen outside of that, but you can't control that.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, you're absolutely right. So many things happen in life, and it just depends on the story that we tell ourselves about those happenings, because sometimes life happens for us, not necessarily to us. So while you were, I mean, obviously, while everybody was benched, because that's what happened to everyone, you know, during the pandemic, everyone was put on the bench, and we obviously were not doing much. 284 days we were locked in, and that was a very long streak. And you decided to pivot just like the rest of us. What did you go on and do?
I'll reel it back a little bit to give a bit more context to that as well. So 2019, I would have been 16 and went out to go get my first job, and handing in resumes to different local businesses and what forth around Mornington. And I went to the local pizza shop, put the resume in, and got a call back. Happy to take you on. Fantastic, got the job. The name of the boss there was Michael. And Michael and I, over the years that I worked there, and to this day as well, built a really, really strong bond together. And Michael had two lives, if you want to call it that. He had his life with the pizza shop and running that. It was a franchise model, so he was a franchisee there. And then he also had a love for film and for video. And over the years, he would do lots of things with his family, different trips. Later, moved into real estate and weddings, which is what he does full-time now. And so over those years, as I think any good boss does, is you want to understand your employees. You want to know what makes them tick and get to know them a lot better. And so he did exactly that with myself. And so I shared those goals that I had over the years. I shared with him my training. I shared with him the results. I shared with him that I wanted to be the goalkeeper for Manchester United. And so he was very much in that journey with me all the way along. And then through COVID, we were able to keep working, which I'm very grateful for. And so he was riding that wave with me. And then over the years that I was playing soccer, I had to analyze my matches and how I was performing, and that helped me as well to create highlight videos for myself I could send off to coaches. So I went and purchased myself a little baby camcorder, $200 from Harvey Norman or something like that, and I would film my games there. And whilst I had that as a little asset for myself, I then thought, okay, let's go film family holidays and celebrations and what forth, and I would make little videos out of that. Likewise at school, we'd be creating videos for different classes. I'd do a little film and editing and stuff like that. So it became a little bit of a hobby for me, filming. And when I'm in this phase of that early 2021, where I don't know where things are moving, I just sort of, let's just sit back a little bit. Michael kind of started nudging me a little bit towards maybe look at film. You've got this hobby, and why don't you have a look and see if you enjoy it a bit more? And I thought, oh yeah, I'll consider it. Didn't really think much about it. And then there would have been a moment not long before, halfway through 2021, And I don't know where the thought came from. It just popped in my head one morning, and I was like, "Oh, let's do that." And that thought was to create a business on sports live streaming. I love sport, being the goalkeeper that I was, and I thought there can't be that much live streaming going on of sports at local and semi-professional levels. It's all at professional level, but there can't be much. And in hindsight, that was a very uninformed judgment. But that was a thought at the time. So I said to myself, right, let's explore that a little bit more. So when I had some spare time over the next 3-4 months outside of school, I did a bit of research around what was available and the technology of live streaming, because I had no idea how to live stream something. I didn't even know what Zoom was before COVID, right? Like, I had no idea you could do stuff like this.
You're not the only one.
Exactly right. We had no idea what Zoom was, and it just popped onto the scene, but it had been around for so long. And so I did all this research into live streaming and what forth, and I thought, you know what, let's make a business out of this. And again, I don't know where this thought came from. I had no real business knowledge. I'd taken a business management class at school, so I knew that side of things in theory, but as we know, in business, theory and practical is very, very big difference between that. And so I explained this to Michael. He said, fantastic. Let me know if I can help you in any way. And by November of that year, just before I finished my year 12 exams, Michael said that he was going to be selling his set of cameras, his gear, and he's going to be upgrading to a new level. Do you want to buy them? And I said, sure, I'll buy them secondhand. So I think from memory, I put out 10, 12 grand on the cameras and the lenses and accessories and what forth at the time. And that was my first taste of professional cameras. And they're still the same cameras that I use today with the team. And from there it was, okay, let's learn how to use a professional camera. So finished the exams. I knew this was the pathway that I wanted to go on, that I was going to start the business. So I started learning all the different things about business, marketing, sales, all of that. Started learning all of that. Did a feasibility study on the actual idea of the business, the sports live streaming. And as I touched on there, it was uninformed at the start. So through that feasibility analysis, I realized, okay, doing that on its own won't be a viable business. So I pivoted that idea to doing more of the traditional film approach, which evolved into the brand story film service that we offer today. And so that was the kickstart. And then over that period from November 2021 to May of 2022, it was all about learning the skills, the gear, video, business, the whole lot. Very strong mentorship from Michael in that time as well. And then May of 2022, 10th of May, I launched the business, Fixon Media Group.
Absolutely. Congratulations. I mean, obviously, if you just look at the footsteps that you have taken throughout, everything that you have ever created or, ever put out there has been a matter of you looking at something and going after it. So many people want to make sure that the stars align and everything else is in place. But when I feel like you've got this thing of, when you see something, you set a goal towards it, and then you just obviously sort of go after it. Is this something that you've noticed about yourself, or somebody has told you about, or is this something that you have actually picked up along the way as well? Because so many people won't be able to do it in the way that you have sort of done it yourself.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you've picked it up, Prosper. One of my favorite quotes is Steve Jobs, and it's one that says, "Can't connect the dots moving forward. You can only connect the dots looking back." And so you have to trust that the dots are going to connect themselves. And I think about that quite often. And when I reflect on where I've come over the past 3 years in business, and then beyond that, say the last 5 to 10 years as an individual, I do think about it's just making that decision, the best decision I possibly can in that moment with the information that I have around me, and trusting my gut a lot of the time. And trusting your gut is a thing that people get very contentious about. I think that you should lean into it very much, because I don't know the science behind it, and I'm gonna probably embarrass myself by saying it, but I think the intuition that you have from your gut really has a connection somehow to the world, and it can pick up that you can't pick up as a conscious human, and it finds all these little things in what you're seeing and what you're hearing, and I think all that collectively in that moment comes to you, and you think, okay, this is something that I'm going to pursue. When I look back and I think, it's crazy that I thought I woke up one day and I was going to create a business with live streaming. I had no idea how to use a camera. I had no idea how to market or sell or run a business or anything around that. I had no idea. I had no experience. But in that moment, the gut said to me, no, this is something that you need to do. And so with the information I had around me, I made the most informed decision I could and said, okay, let's pursue that. And the same with the soccer going back, 2017, starting under 14s football. It was the same thing there. Why in that moment did I think, okay, that's what I'm going to pursue? Why did I decide that my left side was, how did I recognize my left side was stronger and that I had to work on my right side of my body, and the right arm was stronger, so I had to improve the strength in my left arm? Why do these things come up, and why do I make the decision to actually go and improve that? And I think it comes back to just trusting the gut. And I think that's really, really powerful. And I think that people can probably lean into a little bit more is that if you get that gut feeling, whatever it may be, to do something good or to move away from something bad, I think lean into it, because that will be that guiding light moving forward.
Absolutely. And guiding light it is, because now your brand framework is actually changing the way brands connect with their customers. Maybe you can walk us through how this approach, has made a difference in what people are now experiencing with your business now.
Yeah. When we started the business, it was that live streaming idea, and then it pivoted from that to being involved with the traditional film approaches. And I was seeing out there that there's a lot of the same as there is with a lot of industries. There's very, very similar businesses, and there's very few that stand out. And across the realm of film and commercial marketing, video marketing in particular, there was a lot of the same. And I think, okay, how can we actually change this? And so I would watch through all these different films that the top brands are putting out there: Apple, Dove, Nike, Reebok, Adidas, list goes on. And I've started to find these consistencies between each of the top brands that were putting these films out. And so I thought to myself, okay, what is it that these are doing that I'm not getting the same feel from other brands? And through that analysis, I was able to figure out that the reason that these videos from these brands I resonate with the most is because they've connected with me on a level that is very, very deep, very, very profound, very, very personal. And beyond that, why do I feel a certain way watching these videos than I do other videos? Some videos, there wouldn't even be an emotion. It would just be click off the video because there's nothing there to connect me with it. But why do these ones pull me in so much that I had to watch the entire 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 2 minutes? And so from there, I created what I call the brand film framework, which is a 4-step framework for what the best brand story films provide for viewers. And that has been the foundation of what we offer as a service now with our brand story films, and then our short form social media content as well, is bringing all that framework together to create incredibly personal, incredibly relatable videos that truly connect with the viewer, connects them to the brand, and forms an incredible bond between both brand and customer that is so strong that the emotional connection is just, it's through the roof. And that is the forefront of what we produce now, is focus on the emotions, because they are what connects a brand to a customer, and a customer to a brand.
Absolutely love that, because the internet is getting loud now, and especially with the advent of AI, there's some people that just create content just because, they have a script that has been created by AI and it's spoken by AI, and it just doesn't gel with where we are as human beings. And we also then have that new sort of way of doing. Then we also have the traditional side of marketing, where people have just been doing what has always worked. Now, in the market that is now sort of like all over the place like that, what do you believe that now is the perfect time for brands to actually invest in authentic storytelling, as you're saying that you want it to be connected and drawn in at an emotional level?
I'll ask you a question, Prosper. How many ads do you think you see on a daily basis on average?
You'd be surprised. I actually have ad blocker in my whole set.
So 0 is the answer.
Well, personally, I see 0, but I know people are faced with thousands of ads and TikToks that masquerade as entertainment, but they're still an ad in disguise. And so many people now have what's called ad fatigue, where they literally don't even engage just because they just feel like somebody's trying to sell to them.
Spot on. So that is the whole idea behind the shift that we've seen in video marketing. And to answer the question, just as a side note, it's 50 to 400 ads on average every day. People see, so it's a huge number. But that ad fatigue is the exact perfect response there. That is the reason why that people are shifting, businesses are shifting, because over the past 10, 15, 20 years, as consumers, we've been bombarded with advertisements. Everywhere you go, it's gone from paper, it's gone to TV, it's gone from TV to digital, it's gone on social media, it's everywhere. We're sick of them. People are fatiguing with ads. And so the problem for businesses and for brands then is we have a message that we want to share to our customers. We need to share it to them, but the customers are not wanting to receive it. I call it an immune response. The ads are like the antigen. They built up the antibodies in the customers over these years of giving them the same thing over and over again, and their immune system saying, no, we're not taking this anymore, we're going to fight back. And that's where that fatigue comes into play. So there's a problem. So how do you come over that problem there? And it is, you create an incredibly relatable situation for your customers through a visual medium that connects with them, that engages with them, hits them on the emotional level. And through that, you can share your message. As you touched on there, it's kind of a little bit of a disguise. It sounds like a bad word, but that's what's happening. The best brand films, the ones that I've resonated with, the ones that you'll resonate with, Prosper, and the ones that your customers will resonate with, are the ones where we are an incredibly targeted demographic within the customer base of this organization. They know what makes us tick. So they've lent into that through the emotions, through the relatability and the connection to engage us and engross us in the film. And once they've achieved that, then they can put the message within the video underneath subconsciously, and it comes through to our subconscious brain, picks it up and stores it there without us knowing until we're in the right situation, in the right moment. And then it comes through and goes, I need to go to Apple. I need to go to Aura. I need to go to Nike, whatever it may be. It's little triggers like that.
Absolutely. And only when you have managed to cut through the noise and actually reach that targeted audience, because like we have said, it's getting noisy and loud. And there's people like myself who are supposed to be contributing to the ads, but I've actually, shut down the noise by having as many ad blockers in my space as possible. But you've worked with, brands like Maryborough Gift and things of that nature. Could you just maybe walk us through the sort of results that, clients can expect if they work with Fixon Media Group?
Yeah, so one of our biggest clients is the Victorian Athletic League. And for people that are involved in the space of sport or athletics, you'll be quite familiar with the store gift. One of the biggest races in Australia, $40,000 to the men's and the women's winners. Huge every year at Easter time. And so the Victorian Athletic League run not just a store gift, but all the gift meetings across their season, 2022 meetings across the year. And the last 2 years we've been working with them within our framework, producing short form and long form video content. And the results, they don't come immediately. And I think that's really, really important thing to clear up in video marketing, is that if you're chasing short-term results, they are just that, and you've got to keep hopping from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. But if you can create a sustainable strategy that it's 12, 18, 24 months plus in duration, you'll be able to attract and retain customers on a sustainable basis, as opposed to having the jumps to the next strategy. And so we've been working with them for 18, 24 months now. And the results the past 4 months in particular have just been through the roof. So their Instagram following has been grown 450%, Facebook 300%, over 17 million views, multiple videos going over 1 million views across all platforms. In terms of the actual effect on their own organization, they've had 33% increase in membership. They've had a 17% increase in race entries week to week. So, and multiple race meetings have hit record entries across their 100 plus years of existence, which is just profound. It's insane. But that's the impact of what a really connection-driven, emotive, highly relatable short-form and long-form video strategy can have, is because you can target the specific demographic that you're wanting to. You can really draw into them, get the emotional connection that you want. And then once you've achieved that, you can propel them to take action. And in this case with this client, it is propel them to take action in becoming a member and racing week in, week out, and competing and trying to win everything. And that's an incredible achievement. And I'm so happy for them that they've been able to achieve that with us over the past 18, 24 months, because they're up against it. It's called professional running, which is the sport, which is an off-center to traditional athletics. It's called amateurs traditional athletics. And so the professionals has always been put to one side historically, as if you go there, you're not one of the true athletics people. And so having to bridge that gap between both sides of it and being able to attract the amateurs and bringing them into the professional realms, it's been a challenge for them. And they're finally starting to see that cut through with this strategy that we've been implementing with them for the past 24 months. So I'm so happy for them that they've been able to achieve that. And yeah, really, really looking forward to seeing where things go in the next 6 weeks left in the season, and then next season and the season beyond that and beyond that. It's going to be incredible to see that growth go any further.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing that case study there, because from what you're saying, it does look like the closer you are to the camera, the closer you would be to the bank and also to your audience. And we've also noticed, in the last sort of year or so, all platforms have sort of been really going video first, especially the one that, a lot of business people use, which is LinkedIn. And somewhat, I don't know, when it first sort of came about, I thought they were making it like a TikTok sort of version, but no, it's got its own flavor and feel to it. Maybe you can speak to that and how people can actually start really incorporating video, because it's no longer just left for, those that want to dance to the latest trend.
Yeah, LinkedIn short form video is really, really interesting. So the initial beta test for it was March of 2024 from memory. And originally it was just a little beta test. So it's a few thousand, few million users here and there. And the success of that test was profound. It was incredible, cut through. And so LinkedIn said, let's push it out to every single user. And so the LinkedIn video feed is found on the mobile app across the bottom. It's the second from the left from memory. There's no dedicated feed on the desktop version, which is what I use predominantly, but you can still get access to video through the desktop version. And the reason it has been so profound and so highly taken up by users is that it offers a 5x increase on engagement, which is just massive for LinkedIn. So to give context to that and how your listeners and your viewers can really take advantage of this, is that LinkedIn, in the way that its algorithm works, is that when you post, let's just say you post at 9 a.m., in that first hour to 10 o'clock, it will push out your video or your general status post to 5 to 10% of your first degree connections. That's what it does traditionally. So if you've got 1,000 connections, it's going to push it out to 50 to 100 of those connections within the first hour. If your post is getting traction, it's getting cut through, people are finding value in it, and that's proved by a like or a reaction, a comment, a repost, any of those actions, and dwell time is the other one, so they're actually staying there and reading it or watching the entire video. If that occurs a lot within that initial 5 to 10% in that first hour, LinkedIn then goes and pushes out your post to more of your first degree connections. So it could be 20%, 25, 50%, if not more, depending on how much value people are getting out of it. The reason LinkedIn video offers this 5x engagement is that it uses a completely different algorithm. So whilst that initial 5 to 10% is critical, LinkedIn video is actually accessible by everyone on LinkedIn. It's not just restricted to your first degree connections, which is what a regular post is. So if you put out a video about leadership, if you put out a video about HR or accounting or whatever it may be, your specialist area as an individual, someone that has a similar experience, a similar favorite area, or I'm not using the right words here, but if they have an interest in that area as well, that post will get sent to them because LinkedIn will pick it up on the algorithm. They'll say, this person likes finance, this person posted about finance, we'll bring them together. And so likewise with that is if I'm trying to research about finance and LinkedIn might pick it up from different search terms and what forth, or what I'm engaging with on LinkedIn, they'll also bring that to me. So now you're not just hitting your first degree connections, you're hitting everyone on the platform. And that's where that 5x engagement comes from. And that's why it is so powerful, is that if you create the videos and you make sure the copy is incredibly strong and it is contextual to what you're talking about, you can reach anyone on the platform, not just your first degree connections, which is incredible.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for, opening up the LinkedIn Pandora box, because so many people just spray and pray and they're not quite sure how it actually works and things of that nature. I've actually noticed that most posts that we put out actually gain more traction the day after. So many people are caught up with the first few likes and comments, and then they sometimes delete or discard that post thinking that that's the end of it, but it actually really continues to grow, and you can fan the flames by actually commenting and engaging with that post, which then means that yes, you're doing what LinkedIn wants, which is keeping people on the platform. But video is platform agnostic. I think every other social media platform out there is advocating for video first and things of that nature. So instead of us just being bogged down to the one particular platform, maybe you can let us know how people can get a hold of you, just so they can explore what options they might have, especially when they're going to be venturing into this world of make-believe.
Yeah, so the premium offer that we provide for clients is in sport, education, and tourism, and all the little industries that are around those three areas. And it's a 3-tiered service, 3, 5, and 10 offering, gold, silver, bronze, if you want to call it that. And it's a premium one-on-one service. We work with you for 12 months plus. We develop a long form and short form strategy. So I'll give you that example with that client we spoke about before, Victorian Athletic League. We provide them about 240 short form reels across the year. And then we produce 2 long form videos, brand story films, using that brand film framework that we touched on earlier, and dive in and really engage with their audience. And that's a 12-month plus strategy. So it's nothing short term with us. If you're wanting short term, do not come to us, because we don't deal with short term. It's all long term. It's about being sustainable, attracting and retaining customers for the long haul, and setting yourself up as a business to be able to cope with that. So it's one-on-one. It's all the way from an audit of what you've been doing originally with your video marketing. It's then coming up with a strategic plan to associate what we're going to do moving forward, the pre-production, the production, the post-production of all the videos. We then do the distribution, so all the posting, everything is handled one-on-one through us, done for you, and then we go through each month, each quarter, and then annually and review all the statistics and the metrics around that.
Absolutely. And I quite like that because, when you're going to be doing a video strategy and, any marketing strategy, there's a long-term sort of effect to it. And it's not just random acts of marketing that you're just trying to maybe piece together strategies. And that's the reason why a lot of people fail. What would be the best way that if somebody is maybe in the sports, tourism sort of sectors and is interested in a long-term journey with you, where would they go on the internet to find you, Data?
Yeah, so I pretty much live on LinkedIn. So if anyone wants to reach out via LinkedIn, a DM, send through a connection. I'd be more than happy to have a chat. So I'm just easy to find on there, Didier Le Miere on LinkedIn. Otherwise, alternatively, head to our website, Fixon Media, Fixon, and finale, media.com.au. And you can read through the case studies, read through some of the work that we've done there. And then there's a contact form on there that you can get in touch with me. And I always reply within an hour. So, never too far away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will make sure that all those links are in the show notes below so that people can actually get started on their journey. Now, Didier, when we started, you introduced us to this 14-year-old boy who's obviously disciplined and really, really diligent in what they were doing. And as we close, you're showcasing this long-term thinking, video producing, marketing expert, who really works with certain set clients and things of that nature. Now, in the world we live in, Didier, you would appreciate there's a lot of instant gratification, just people wanting short-term results and quick returns. Now, would you say there's a connection between the discipline and the resilience that you developed as a goalkeeper and now the dynamic storytelling that you bring to the work that you're doing right now?
100% Prosper, 100%. Sport is an area that I don't just love for the sake of watching it and getting involved with the chaos around sport. If you look at an athlete at the top level and you break them down as a piece of parts of the machine, and you look at what they've got in there fueling them, they've got discipline. They work incredibly, incredibly hard. They have patience. They put in the work day after day. They look for the improvements of those 1%ers. They have strong habits, compounds and compounds and compounds. And those were those key learnings that I took from being on that pathway to wanting to be at that elite level. And look, I know I didn't get there. And that's okay, because I've taken the learnings along the way of the discipline and the hard work and the dedication and the gratitude of things as well. And then applied that in the rest of my life, in my current life, in business, in video marketing, in having to get results, not in the short term, but set yourself up to get results in the long term. Because you can't make it to the top of the Premier League in 1 year, in 6 months. It just doesn't happen. But if you put in the work for 5 years, for 10 years, the chances of that goes through the roof. And it's very, very, very hard to implement something, whether it be video marketing or just a habit in general, and look 10 years into the future and you don't see yourself being successful in that area. It would be crazy to think that you couldn't achieve success in 10 years if you did the same thing over and over again, working towards achieving a certain goal. And so that is what I would want listeners to take away from today, is find what you need in terms of habits, whether it be dedication, discipline, and hard work, and implement that where you need to within your life, but think a long-term time horizon. Don't think 6 months. Don't think 3 months. Think 5 years. Think 10 years. Because you'll be surprised what you can achieve in 12 months if you've got your mind set on achieving something in 10 years' time. And you'll be even more surprised what you'll achieve in 10 years' time, because those results just compound year after year after year after year. That's the biggest takeaway for your listeners, Prosper. I really, really hope they can find that in themselves, whatever those habits need to be, and just implement that going forward and think long-term, think about long-term results.
Absolutely. And what I like about this whole thing is, even though you had those goals that got shattered by that injury, it's not you playing in what's that, Anfield Stadium or the Manchester United
Old Trafford.
Old
Yeah.
Trafford. Yeah. And it's not you going to play on that green grass, but it's the man you became. All
Yeah.
right. It's the person you became along the journey. And so many people just have their stakes on something. Yes, you might be derailed, life might change. And like we did mention, a curveball, but whatever you have created stays with you. You know what I mean? It's not borrowed, it's who you have become and things of that nature. But now that Old Trafford is not gonna sort of happen anytime soon, and I don't know if the sites are now on Hollywood, what's next? What are we working towards now?
What are we working towards now? For me, the driving factor behind what I do and everything that I've done before me is bring happiness to people. That is the core of what it is. Whether it be through the years of soccer in bringing happiness to teammates through getting good results, being that rock of the goalkeeper and making sure that that goal doesn't go through and it gets stopped and we win the game, or whether it be now in business and being able to bring happiness to my clients through getting them incredible results. Happiness is the why, is the driving force. So moving forward, what am I working towards? It is building myself up as an individual to being able to provide the happiness for people. As you touched on there, the ego of the individual person cannot be wrapped up in the achievement of a goal, because goals change. You want the ego to be wrapped around building those habits that make you the person that you want to be. And so if I can build myself up to be the individual that I want to be, I know that that's going to be able to bring the happiness to the people that I want it to be, whether it be through family, relationships, friends, business, sport, whatever it may be. That is what I'm working towards every single day, and becoming the person that I can be to give happiness to everyone around me.
I like that. You're still a goalkeeper at heart, but this time around, not soccer balls, but life goals.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, Prosper. Definitely.
Bruh, I can't thank you enough for the time that we've spent on the call today. I mean, your life story and your experience have so much depth and value that we could have gone on, but you heard the whistle go on.
Halftime, Prosper. We'll be back. The second half's not too far away.
Fantastic. And if you notice, with this whole session, no red cards and no yellow cards were issued out. So I'm really excited with the journey that you're on, man, and what you're doing and how you're creating for and relating to those that are, perceiving your journey and your story. So thank you so much for the lived experience that you've just shared with us today.
Appreciate it, Prosper. Thanks for your time, and thanks for your listeners' time as well. I hope you've been able to take away even just 1% from our conversation today and implement that within your own life. And if you can do that, then I've done my job as a guest and providing my insights to my life to your listeners. So thank you. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Well, you're going to hear about the guy on Melbourne streets who's just doing right turns, even if I'm supposed to turn left, just so that I practice.
Maybe that's why hook turns were invented. Who knows?
You're touching up on something there, but thank you so much. And for those that are watching, that wraps up yet another inspiring episode of the Online Prosperity Show. A huge thank you to Didier for sharing his incredible journey from the football field to the forefront of brand storytelling with a Fixon Media Group. And if you found today's conversation as transformative as I surely did, be sure to hit that subscribe button and maybe share this episode with somebody who, like me, can't turn right because they haven't figured out what their true strengths are. There's a lot of us out there. Or if somebody is still, wallowing in their sorrows because of some sort of injury or some sort of mishap or curveball that was thrown at them and they're still stuck in that position. If you take a leaf out of Didier's story, you will notice that every injury or every setback is actually a setup for a huge comeback. And I want you to leave your thoughts in the comments below, what you're going to be doing next, especially if you actually had that setback. And stay tuned for our next episode. From what I hear, we're going to be diving into ideas that can help you pave your way to a happier, more fulfilling existence. Now, I can't wait to see what you're going to do with this information today. Bye for now.